Alrighty.
Oh, we didn't have a nice little countdown like we did last time.
No, I just went straight to it.
What's up, Jason?
What's going on, Chris? How's everybody doing out there? Hopefully, I don't know how many people we got here so far. I have to pull that up. Look. Welcome everybody to the second episode of the Turn and Burn podcast. I guess we're both hosting, so I'm Jason with Rotoboss Rotary Attachments, and we
And
got
I'm
Chris Licasio here from House of Lasers and Thunder Lasers. So what we got on the agenda today, Chris?
not a whole hell of a lot. We'll be taking questions, and then also I saw you
can't hear you.
Oh, that's not good.
Hold on
Can anybody hear me?
a second. There we go. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. I muted the wrong thing on my on my
Okay,
computer.
all right, good.
Hey, Kate. Hey, Katie. How's it going?
One of the drawbacks of
Let's
being
see
live,
here.
right? So one of the things I wanted to discuss today
Yeah.
was I saw that
We'll get it.
you got a nice little new car. Hello.
I didn't hear you. I don't know if it's me or you or what's going on.
I said I noticed you got a nice little new car.
Something's not. There you. Yeah. I did a little thing over the weekend. So yeah,
So
there's
a lot.
It's gonna be a
lot
tribute
of cool
to my
things
dad.
that we
It's the kind of car that he
actually
had.
a lot of cool things we actually have in common. I didn't realize till just recently that your daughter wrestles. My son wrestles.
Yep.
I had a white and orange Camaro, 69. You got a 71 white and orange Camaro. Crazy. And
Yeah,
still
can
we
you hear me
disagree
okay?
on so much. And I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Alicia said that she couldn't hear me or was messing up. Yeah, I mean it's pretty funny. Like I was telling you before, like my daughter went from weightlifting or goes from swimming to weightlifting to wrestling, and now she's doing lacrosse. So we stay pretty busy around here. So
I'll
but
tell
no,
you
it's
what,
good.
the swimming is great cardio work for those kids.
Yeah.
Especially for the rest of the wrestlers. I need to get my son in a pool or something.
Yeah. Just make sure he floats and not sink. So anyways, just a quick thing to start us off. The Turn and Burn Cop podcast, we're just kind of here to shoot the breeze and talk shop. And also a lot of what we do is driven by you guys listening out there. So if you have any questions, laser, rotary, or anything in between, feel free to ask it and we'll address it and get to it kind of as soon as we can or as we go. Just bear with us because trying to keep track of talking and everything that's going on, a little overwhelming at times. So, but yeah, if you have any questions or anything, that's kind of what we're here for. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of talk about some things that are on our minds, things we see throughout the social media platforms and things like that. So yeah. So welcome, and we'll go ahead and get this kicked off. So I know we left off last episode talking kind of about social media and the nuances of that as far as users and questions and things like that. Do you want to kind of elaborate a little bit on some of the things, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. Yeah, I mean, it amazes me sometimes with the user base, and whether it be new users, old users, the fact that they tend to run to Facebook with a lot of these questions, hoping to get the right answer, where it's kind of a hodgepodge of of replies, and it's like a roll of the dice almost of what you're going to get for a reply and an answer. Usually within the 20 to 30 replies, you'll have one or two good ones, and then just shots in the dark. And it's frustrating as tech support. I'm sure running your own support for your rotaries, where people start steering in the wrong direction down rabbit holes, and it's just, now we got to reel everybody back in, correct some of the statements that were made. And there's lots of documentation out there. There's lots of things to look at to help you. If your OEM provider can't help you, like Jason, then somebody in one of their forums should be able to help you, hopefully. But I'm just amazed sometimes at some of the questions I see, and the answers are even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that too quite a bit. It's a little frustrating. Actually, I dealt with a couple people over the past like week or two that got steered down a rabbit hole, and basically had to dig them out for lack of a better way to put it. Like for me, for Rotoboss, my number's on every rotary that we send out. So I don't know how more transparent and open I can be. Also we have the YouTube channel, Rotoboss Rotary Attachments, that has a lot of videos, and we're working on getting more of those out there. Not quite to the level that Thunder has done all their stuff, but because basically just me and my media guy, so to speak, or one of my employees. Um, but yeah,
Alicia's got a good question. Where do
what's that?
people that don't use Facebook go? How do they get answers if they're not on Facebook? I mean, it's, even in my community forums, like for my local area, hey, there's a helicopter. I mean, why does it bother you so much? It's just, some of the stuff is just crazy.
I mean, Facebook is a decent place to get information, but like I wouldn't say I butted heads with the guy, but I had a conversation on the global Thunder, talking about be careful who you get your information from, and that was I think that was one of the people that ended up helping on the phone. But just being mindful of who you're getting information from, because a lot of people just spit out answers. They don't ask questions, and if you don't give the details,
Right.
kind of like we talked in the last episode, the more information you can put out there, the better. Don't just put out a picture and a thing saying what's going on, why is this doing this. We need information,
Right.
machine type, your speed and power settings, your rotary setup settings, or whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah.
We need that information. And when you get people just throwing an answer out there and they're not asking questions first, you probably don't want to get that information from them, because it's just not, they don't know what's going on. They're just shooting in the dark.
No, I see people
And
who answer
for someone that's
questions
not used
with
to it,
no information, zero information about the problem or the
well, that's
machine.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and they're able to answer
Yep.
somehow. I don't know how
So
they're able to answer.
I mean, a clock's right twice. A broken clock's right twice a day. So,
That's true. Unless
but
it's in another country.
and I'm not saying that don't listen to people on Facebook. What I'm basically saying is, like, for me, if you have a rotary question, contact me. Since we're Thunder's OEM for rotaries, they're probably going to have a better idea. Same thing with lasers. If you have a Thunder or whatever, contact their support, or people that that are tight within that organization, or just a prominent figure, like Katie Devlin or Robert Kofed, or
Alicia
any
got plenty of knowledge.
Alicia Pate. Yeah, I mean,
Not
any
that she's not
people
busy enough.
that are well, no, but but I mean, just search out information from prominent people within the community, because a lot of people, and it's not just lasers, it's any group you're in. a lot of people just want to talk to hear themselves talk, or see themselves type.
Yeah.
And maybe they're right sometimes, but like the one, I don't remember the question off the top of my head, but the oh, it was the power setting on the control panel. It was sitting at 20 for max power, and someone said, "Oh no, you need to bump that up to 90 or 95." It's like, no, no, that's not your max power setting. That's your pulse setting. That's not your, just things like that. Just be mindful, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when
Let's
you're
see.
replying, be sure you know what you're talking about. It's a lot of us want to help for sure. Especially being new, you start to get the grasp of things and you feel confident, but you still don't know what you don't know. And I'm learning every day. If you had your machine for a week, I know you shouldn't be answering questions yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you got some good, I don't know if this is the right way to say this, but if you got some good common sense, you know how the systems and machines work, you can kind of feel your way through some things, even though you're not fully understanding. Um, but I don't know. It's hard to communicate that, I guess, to people.
So I did a on-site training a month ago or so, and it was really interesting to me how afraid people are of their laser.
Yeah,
And actually, this is a really, really good topic because when I first got my laser, it was a side business. I already have income coming in, and this was a cool machine that I bought to mess around with. Um, so if I messed it up, I really didn't care too much, and the products that I was buying, I didn't really care too much with because I was just experimenting with everything. So doing that and pushing the machine to the limits to find out what it's capable of, pushing the materials to the limits to find out what they're capable of, is going to be your fastest way to learn on some of these things. And yeah, it was just crazy to me that there's so many people out there that are running these businesses with these machines, but they're afraid to use them. They do the same things every day, and that's really about it. Yeah, people are
yeah,
terrified for sure, and um, the further you dive into the machine, it's not going to bite you. There's safety features on 90% of these machines that will stop you from getting hurt. And as long as you're being aware, you should be able to stop something crazy from happening. They all have e-stops, and you should have some type of fire blanket and stuff like that. But yeah, don't be afraid of the machine, and you will see your growth or your knowledge level just increase through the roof
yeah,
because you know the limitations.
yeah. And like Alicia says, why do you want to send the file to read a controller versus start from Lightburn? Um,
The one that
that's a
she knows all
huge,
about.
yeah, that's a huge thing because yes, you can do it, but you got to understand how the system works. Like when you send something to or start something from the laser, you're actually buffering it to the machine from the computer. So if you have any communication breakdown while that job is running, you're gonna probably ruin that job because the laser is gonna stop once it reaches wherever that that buffer packet reached. It's gonna stop. Um, so starting from the laser is always best, especially with the rotary. I don't know why it's such an issue with rotaries specifically, but trying to control and do anything with the rotary doesn't work
Even
very well. And
even pausing.
yeah, pausing
Pausing.
sucks because if you
Yeah.
pause it and you hit start, it'll do like one or two lines and then it'll stop and then it'll start again.
Yep.
And usually that it's going to screw it up.
Yep.
So I mean yeah, that sucks. I've done that before.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure, but from what I understand, it's exactly what you're saying. Is it's buffering, and I usually call it like Willy Wonka vision. that it's just, sending this information through the air or through the cable. And, on a diode laser where it doesn't have any memory, and it has the ability to buffer, that's totally different. It's so slow that it can keep up with the buffer.
Yeah.
But on our machines, on all of these Ruida controllers, it's moving so damn fast that by the time it gets to that next packet, now we're all over the place and jumping, and it just ruins something. I'm sure Jason would be happy to tell us what really happens, but that's, in my mind, that's kind of what's going on. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've never used a diode. You sure, Jason, with what?
Love to tell me
Can you hear
exactly
me?
how it runs. Yeah. Yeah, you're cutting in and
All
out
right.
every
I
once
don't
in
know.
a
It's
while.
something. I don't know if it's me or you or what. Yeah.
You need to kick your kids off the internet.
Yeah. I need to switch back to the other thing, but if I do, it'll probably drop us off the live. So, but anyways, yeah. I mean, I have my kind of speculations as to why it does that, or why it's such an issue with rotaries and stuff, because like my interpretation is that it doesn't, the software doesn't necessarily know what you're doing. It just sends the code, and then the machine processes the code. So I don't think it differentiates in that regard. So that's again speculation. I'm
Right.
not 100% certain, but that's my kind of thought
Yeah, that's
on
why,
it.
that's why I said Jason can pick us apart as far as the layman's version of what we think is going on. We just know it doesn't work right.
Yeah,
or it works correctly. It's just limitations of the controller.
yeah. Or it'll be hit and miss. Like sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't.
Right.
And then
Yeah, I
people
mean,
were like,
we have people all the time that will write in and say my job messed up. I've been running it on my Mac computer via USB for a year and I've never had an issue. And then next thing you know, there's that one time where it just buffers incorrectly
"Yep,
and just doesn't work.
yeah,
Not worth taking the chance. Right,
no,
Alicia?
yeah, yeah, yeah." That kind of like I don't take any chances with that stuff
Well, I
on
mean, you
anything.
don't want, in Alicia's case, $1,000 rifle stock where you're very confident in how it's been performing. You send that one file over, and it screws up that piece for somebody. You're in the hole for it. Let's see.
So go ahead.
Oh, I'm looking. I'm reading.
So it says I've noticed the leather and darker stains or dyes reacts differently with the results of darkness and engraving. Does the darkness of the medium affect the results? I don't I don't think it's the darkness. I think it's what the laser's having to go through. That more so dictates that. Unless you're using like borax or something like that or vinegar, you can get darker engravings with borax or vinegar or something like that. And again, I think it's more of somewhat of a chemical reaction when that material burns. It actually is what causes it, not necessarily the fact that you're putting liquid on it or something.
Well, and how far
But
down are we going
like,
in the material?
but yeah.
If
Well, I
you put a
noticed
stain on
too.
it, how deep is that stain?
Yeah, that's another. That's what I was getting ready to say. Is like you can pretty much tell by looking at a type of wood when someone walks in a shop or whatever, if it's a walnut or a cedar or something that you know it's a dark. Um, and then the lighter woods, pine, white oak, things like that, they're typically going to burn a lot lighter.
So I wonder, because I see
Um,
Alicia's next
and like you
comment.
said with the stain, if you have like a really heavy penetrating, if you have a heavy stain that soaks in really well, that might affect it as well.
Right.
Uh, yeah, we got somebody here. Also been running from the controller. Can you verify your settings were correct? I've sent the file over and realized I forgot to change power and speed. I caught different before engraving.
Yep.
So yes, you can see all that. And yes, you can change it from the laser. Your speed and power, you can change all that. So once you load the file, you'll hit the enter button. It'll highlight the different layers. If you have like 3 or 4 different color layers, it'll highlight the layers, and you can hit the up and down. I think it's up and down or menu or something. And scroll through them and hit enter for that particular color layer, and you can go in and change your speed and power for that as well.
Yeah, and
So,
there's a few
um,
different HMIs, the screens, the human mechanical interface or whatever the hell it's called. There's a few different versions for the Ruida controller, and some of the versions will allow you to live adjust your max min power and your speed. On most of the newer ones, on the Thunders at least, you have to pause to adjust the max min power, and then it'll, once you press play again, then it'll take effect. I would like to. I'm finding the Alicia comment about the veggie tan on colored burns better than a dark leather. So I'm guessing you're dyeing the leather via this vegetable. You're tanning it with something, but it's a lighter leather. Okay. So my guess is it's going to come out better because we're going through the dark, showing the lighter. So it's going to be a much better contrast, as opposed to using the dark. The darker stains don't grave. That's interesting. I guess maybe how deep it penetrates.
well, that, and like I said, I think it's more of a chemical reaction when it burns, and the different types of stains and colors are probably affect it differently. I don't know, and that's one of those things. Like a lot of people will go on and ask what settings should I use.
Right.
That's another big one I see all the time is like, what are recommended settings for, like, I saw a post about cutting 1/8 inch birch or whatever it was. And, you know, you can have two of the identical machines and the results with the same settings are probably going to be different. So, I wouldn't take anything anybody says as
Gospel.
gospel, so to speak. Um, but you can use that as a baseline, or Thunder has on their website, they have uh, um, one, if not more, test profiles that you can download and use um, to do all your testing with to see what power is needed for cutting, different um, density, or not densities, but different colors, different depths, different all that different stuff for your different material. Um, and that's really the best way to
Yeah,
do it, in my opinion.
and yeah, and Alicia's even mentioning that she's got to test it out a little bit more, but we know for sure that light refraction on these machines is a thing. Just doing tumblers and different color powder coats. Um, and let's take. She mentioned the UV as well. Let's take the UV for example. I got two mixed kids. Indian and white, and they're a little darker skinned and they don't burn as easy in the sun like my wife does. So yeah, I mean it's there is something to do with the color as well.
Well, I mean, you got to think of it too is the laser is just a light spectrum, is
Right.
really all it is, and that light
And
spectrum
depending
is
on the
going to hit,
bandwidth.
just like all the different galvos that we have, fiber, CO2, UV, all of those things are on different wavelengths as far as the light. and they're going to react with materials differently.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of when you're looking for a laser, you got to keep all that stuff in mind. Do some research, ask the questions, things like that, um, to find out what works for you. Because I mean, there's nothing worse than spending anywhere from $4,000 to $15,000 on a decent machine just to find out that it's not going to do what you want it to do. Um, Now there are exceptions to that, obviously, like fiber and leather. Fibers will do leather, but usually, like the I know the tube matters. Like if you're using a Raycus, it's not going to do it very well. Whereas you're using a JPT or MOPA, you're going to get a much bigger wavelength or whatever the megahertz or whatever. Um, so you can actually play around with it and get that. But I know with the Raycus, you're really limited, and the one I had wouldn't do leather or wood hardly at all. But I have a 60 watt now or 50 watt JPT that'll do it, but it's not all that great. Whereas a UV or the CO2 is better suited for stuff like that. So
Yeah, the
just
UVs
kind of knowing
UVs
what
still a
you're
little
getting into.
slow. I love the UVs.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an amazing source that'll work on anything for the most part, but it's just a slow. I mean, we're working with 5 watts, 10 watts at the moment. So
I mean it is, but like say you're doing a stainless engraving, a bare stainless, you got to think, okay, well, the cost of the spray, the time it takes to prep it, clean it after it's done, and you got to run a fiber slower, not so slow, but slower than what you normally would, anyways, to get that to come out right. And on a UV, you might be an extra 30 seconds for an engraving, but you don't need the spray. You don't need to clean up afterwards. And when it's done, it's silky smooth, dark black. And of
yep,
course, you can play with your settings and get different color or different variations of like a translucent silver all the way up to a dark black. Um, of course, if you got MOPA, then you actually add color to it. Um, or not MOPA. Well, MOPA fiber, you can add color to stainless. But
mhm.
um, so I mean, for me, I think it's worth it.
That's a good question.
Oh,
It,
we got another Alicia.
yeah, I mean that's a good question. The 3D side of things, I don't know if your machine, Alicia, takes into consideration the Z move. Um, until until Lightburn comes out with their fiber controller, which I'm hoping they do. I know they were mentioning something about it at LBX. They hinted at something, but until we have something that can control the Z and take advantage of the 3D side of EasyCAD 3D, I just don't know if it's worth the extra money or being handcuffed um, with not being able to use Lightburn.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think it's kind of like the whole Stanley Cup thing. I mean, I think it's kind of it's cool, it's nice, it's unique. Um, but I've never used EasyCAD 3D, so I don't know how if it's any better than the regular EasyCAD. Um, but yeah, if Lightburn gets it on board, it's going to change things. I mean, just like Galvo in general,
Right.
before like what 2 years ago when Lightburn came out with the Galvo setup, like nobody used Galvo. Like
No.
it was such a pain in the butt to use a Galvo unless you're just doing like a name or something like that. Because EasyCAD, unless you had a really high powered computer, EasyCAD really drags it down, and a lot of times it would crash if you're doing really detail oriented or intensive designs. EasyCAD would crash, whereas Lightburn does things a little bit different. So it doesn't I forget how they use it, or how they say. I think EasyCAD actually uses the RAM on your computer to process, whereas Lightburn processes as it goes, or something like that. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but
It's using system memory, too much of the system memory to process. Yeah, I mean, I had so many issues with easy crash. Yeah, I mean, high concentrations of vectors and running multiple hatch patterns to, dig, clean, and all of that stuff, doing different rotations. I would crash EasyCAD all the time.
yeah, yeah. I was so glad when Lightburn came out with that. My God.
When I got that message, hey, you still have a fiber? You want to test this for
Well,
me?
I got in on the beta for it before they launched it, mainly for the rotary side of things, to help them out with that. But that was interesting. Of course, I've been with Lightburn since 2018, I think. That's right about when they came out with it. I think they came out with it in like early 18. Um, but and it was basically, at the time, it was just a process program. There wasn't a whole lot of things that we have now in it. Um,
No, it was an
but
evolution for sure. Well, I mean, if you ever get a chance, anybody that's watching this, and if you ever get a chance to meet Jason Dory and sit with him for a moment, just pick his brain about how the concept of Lightburn happened. And it was, it was a software designer, video game programmer that bought a laser and hated the industry, or hated, not the industry, but it hated the software that came with it, and said,
no,
screw this, I'm going to make my own. But it was never meant to be what it is today. And now he's got 17 plus employees, and uh,
I mean,
forever it was just him and Matt.
that's that's the way with any business. I mean, I never, making rotaries for me was just supposed to be a side gig that made a little extra money. And now, in a full fledged business, 7 employees, you know, pumping out probably close to 100 rotaries a month. I mean, it's ridiculous, and that all come from just doing it in my garage, doing them by hand. So, but I mean, I guess that's what every business owner aspires to, is to have maybe not 17 employees, but have a good thriving business based on the effort that they put into it. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's just amazing that it's not supposed to be this. It was just a new communication medium to get the files from your design to the laser, and it's a full design suite for the most part.
yep.
Photo processing, galvo, diode, and now working on CNC. So yeah, it's huge. Very proud of
So,
where he's come. It's awesome to watch.
oh yeah. I mean, when it first came out, it was kind of, to me, it was kind of a novelty thing. It's like, oh, this will never work, because it was basically, like I said, just an intermediary between your design software and the laser,
Right.
with some design elements to it. But just seeing the progression over the past 5 years or so that he's been doing it, it's amazing. And
Well,
even more recently, now that they got more people working on it, um, they're able to focus on a lot more things instead of just like one thing at a time. They can split out and take care of different things all at once. So, and they're that what's it called? Uh, the Madge, or the
oh,
um
Mill Mage.
Mill Mage, yeah.
Yeah.
That they come out with for CNC machines. I don't know if Alicia's got that or not. I know it. I think it's in beta right now. but if she doesn't, that'd be a good thing to do is reach out to him and get that and try it out.
Yeah.
See how it
I,
goes.
I haven't messed with it besides opening it and playing around with it, but the foundation is there and it's getting better and better.
Yep. And it's funny because all of these advancements kind of just happened at once. Like you got Lightburn, you got the rotaries, you got like Thunder. I mean, all of us kind of. I mean, Thunder was always in the U.S., but I guess it was kind of, until um, Clay took over, and now it's what it is
Right.
today. But it's like all of, and even Eon, like all these companies around 2018, 2019 just hit the streets, and
I
you
mean,
know,
I think we could probably contribute it a lot to Lightburn, making it a lot easier for people to get into the market.
yep,
Obviously, the prices went down on a lot of the diode lasers, giving people a gateway drug to get into it. And then Glowforge, Glowforge's marketing was insane. I mean, they're almost on the exit path right now, but uh, they created many home businesses.
yep.
You know,
There's still a lot of people that swear by them, and I've never used one, but to me, I think they're very limited. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Glowforge, you know, uh, I don't, I don't, I don't think that the community would be the where it is right now because they've kind of lit the fire under everybody else to
right.
come out with bigger and better things.
Well, look at
Just
the
like
bolt.
yeah, I mean
I
that's a
mean,
direct competitor to them now, and arguably or unarguably probably better
yeah,
in pretty much every aspect.
yep,
But yeah, like I mean, even like OM Tech came out with a new that convertible or what I don't know what you call it, where you hit a button
right.
and it raises up so you can do like I guess rotary stuff or bigger objects or something. I don't know that much about it, um, but yeah. So I mean, it's just funny to me that 2018, 2019, like all these different things came out kind of all at once,
Right.
and then it just seems like the laser community's just skyrocketed from there,
Oh yeah, there's
just
definitely a
for ease of
spike.
use. Well, like doing cups. Like I absolutely hated doing cups. I mean, because it was so hard to do.
Right.
You'd waste 30% of your stuff trying to get it to work. And now obviously with ours and other people's rotaries and stuff that are out there, that it's made it a lot easier. So now a lot more people are doing it. Um, and
I
that's
wish I
kind of
didn't give
elevated.
away. I gave away the two rotaries that I had from that other manufacturer. I wish I would have kept them because those are dinosaurs, man. It's crazy. Uh, two aluminum square tubings mounted, wheels mounted to the tubing on an aluminum chassis. You couldn't move anything because it was metal on metal, and it was just like the slippage that went on. I mean, it was just insane. That's why,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I still got my old boss ones.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's see here. I'm gonna answer a couple questions here. So, Tom, can I do the same thing as a 3D UV with a 2D and a Talon? I'm not quite sure what that's asking.
Well, I don't. I'm not sure of the capability. Alicia would be the one to answer that because she's been pushing the 3D software with the help of what's his name, Pi Gal Poker Lee. What's his
Oh
name?
yeah, you told him.
Pascal.
Oh, Pascal Lou.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think she's been pushing that and figuring that side of it out. But I would think that it would be nice to wrap around a cup without having to use a rotary. But still, I mean, if you wanted any type of graphic that has to go all the way around, then you don't have a choice.
Well,
You got to
that
use
and
a
if
rotary.
if it has a lot of detail and stuff too, because inherently you're going to lose some of that detail whether it's 3D or not. Because I mean the beam can only skew so much before it starts to kind of disperse and not be viable, I guess. Uh, Not sure if that answers your question, Tom. I don't know that I fully understand um, what it is that you're asking.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I'll talk to Alicia a little bit on that and see what I could find out as far as the capabilities. But I mean, ultimately, I think with a rotary and a 2D, you should be okay.
Yeah, I mean a rotary you can do anything on a rotary. I mean there's especially now that with the chucks and stuff. A lot of people nowadays probably don't even know what chuck life was like. Even the D80s, D90s, things like that. Um, they were such a pain in the butt. Just inherently, you got metal jaws on a metal cup. It's gonna slip. It's not gonna hold, or you're gonna stretch out. Like a lot of problems I had is when you try to grip it with the chuck, you either smash it or you expand it and the lid don't fit or whatever because you had to tighten it down so tight to hold everything. It was just so impractical, especially on glass. I don't know how many glasses I broke trying to do that.
Yeah, I
Um,
broke a couple of glasses on the old style chuck for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're good, but they basically took something from a lathe perspective and like a woodworking perspective and just put it into lasers. I mean, it's all they knew. It's all they had at the time. And I mean, they're cheap, but you're gonna get what you pay for in that regard. But um, yeah. And then Katie says that's why Chris made his own cups.
I'll tell you what, there
Yeah.
wasn't any back then when I started Latazza, it was Yeti and Polar Camel. And Polar Camel was a great option, but they didn't always have colors like they do now. They didn't
Yeah.
always have stock like they do now. And they didn't have ribs like they do now. So I was like, screw this. I don't want these ribs. That's for condoms. That's not for my tumbler. But I mean, ultimately at this point, JDS is probably one of the biggest suppliers of tumblers in the market and the most reliable and consistent. But
Yeah.
yeah, I had no choice. I couldn't stand what was there. Yeti was way too expensive. Um,
Well, that
you know,
that and you couldn't get them in bulk. Like Yeti wouldn't sell them to you,
no, they wouldn't sell it at a discount.
especially if they knew you did laser engraving.
Right. Yeah, they wouldn't warranty it. There was, people getting sued left and right for all types of shit.
Well, that's why JDS has those ribs because I
Yep.
don't know how many people know this, but JDS cups are made in and from the same factory that Yeti is
Right, yeah.
made, exactly the same.
Mm,
And they got sued, or they had a lawsuit. I don't know if it was like I don't know what happened with it, but I know like all of us that bought from JDS got cease and desist letters saying you have until this point
yep.
to sell your stock, and then after that, if you get caught, you're
Right.
liable. Um, and that's why they had to add the ribs because they had to differentiate themselves from the Yetis.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, a Facebook user, I'm not sure who that is, but yeah, Arctic too. Arctic, but they would always run out of stock as well. Like
yep,
they would give you a discount for buying in bulk and it wasn't anything crazy, but they would always be out of stock. And I need something consistent. And that was,
yep.
I found the reasons why people were having hard times.
Yeah. A little side note to this, if you don't know, the guy that owns Arctic is the brother of the guy that owns Yeti, and I don't know, they had a business falling out or something, and he said, "To hell with it, I'm gonna go start my own," and that's where Arctic came from.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Katie, what do you guys think will be the next laser trend post full wrap Stanleys? Oh, geez. I honestly don't. Nothing surprises me at this point, so I couldn't even begin to guess. Um, uh, I mean, like we talked about in the last episode, me and Chris were doing full wraps back in 2018, 2019, and we thought it was a joke. It would never go anywhere. Now, 5 years later, everybody and their brother's doing it. That lends itself obviously to the lasers, the quality, the rotaries, the software. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
things that kind of lended it to it. But you got to understand back then, the things that we were working with, it was a joke. I mean, there was no consistency, there was no repeatability, none of that stuff. So, but yeah, we talked about that before. Remember,
Yeah.
um, how we started doing that stuff? What, almost 6 years ago
Uh,
now?
well, as soon as the stamps came on the market, I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to make money. They're going to price themselves out of the business. But I think I did a Stanley full wrap on the Bolt in 15 minutes. That's
Yeah,
that's doable. Now, if you're spending a half hour, 45 minutes, you better be charging $200 for that cup. I
yeah.
mean, that's
And
that's kind
that's
of where
another
you
thing
need to
too is
be.
when people talk about pricing and stuff, like you can't price your stuff exorbitantly high just because your machine is slow. Like,
Right.
I mean, you can't do that. I mean, you do it, you're going to run yourself out of business.
Yeah.
But, um,
Or you need a farm,
yeah,
like a 3D printer farm, and there's a lot of people that have Glowforge farms and diode farms, and they just run them all day long.
yep. And they do good at it apparently, but for the price you pay for a Glowforge, which is like what 6 to 8 thousand somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a bolt, it's like it's
55.
twice as fast.
Hmm.
It's got more power, more quality detail, the
Hmm.
speed, sport. I don't know what Glowforge sport's like, but you know,
I'm sure it's not great.
yeah,
Send it back and send me $1,600, and we'll send you a refurbished one.
yeah. I heard someone said that before. Maybe it was in the last episode or something, but yeah, I heard about that, and I'm like, what? Because they got to
Yep.
pay to ship it back,
Hmm.
and then they got to pay to ship it back to them. I
Right.
mean, granted, they're getting a new machine or one that's been refurbished or whatever, but you got to foot the bill on that, and that's just it blows my mind
Yeah,
because
and and
it's like
and a Z
it's just,
axis.
yeah. Well,
Glowforge
yeah,
has
you have a
one.
yep, and the bolt has a full Z axis to do rotary work or deeper or bigger items. So I mean, for the same price or even a little bit
Katie,
less.
Katie, that's a gold plated box. $250 if you don't have the box.
Yeah. Well, she would know. She was in that scene for some
Right.
time. Um, but yeah, I mean it's like Epilogue and all that stuff. All the bigger or the higher priced ones. Like you can't even get parts for them.
Right.
To get a part, you have to send them the old one. You have to give them your serial number, all that stuff. And if you're not the one that bought it originally, good luck.
Yeah.
So they're very tight-lipped about that stuff, which is ridiculous. That's why I like Thunder and the other lasers so much.
Oh,
The the
no.
the, the, the quote unquote China ones.
Here
Uh-oh,
comes
Grant's in here.
Grant. Grant.
What's up, Grant? Um, so you have the budget machines, but they're not really budget. I mean, the or the bolt is, I think, a true, maybe not the right word to use, but a budget laser. But it's so much more than, and that's only based on the price. That's not saying that
Well,
you're
I mean,
getting a cheap machine.
a lot of these people are looking at X tools. They're looking at the Glowforge, and now that they have the option of the Bolt.
Yep.
Um,
Another,
the price difference. I mean, the Glowforge is higher. The Glowforge, you're in almost $10,000 with the Glowforge with all the limitations.
yep. And just like here, you have to go off a cloud service for Glowforge.
Yeah, and if you read the fine print, they own your artwork.
Yeah. Well, I mean that goes. Me and my employees were talking about that today. Any like Google Drive or any of that stuff. Once you put it on their server, they own it in the regards that if you remove it, they still have it.
Right.
Like, granted, they can't go out and do whatever they want with it, but they still own what you put on there.
Right.
And it's just ridiculous. And like with Glowforge, everything is cloud based. So if your internet's down or their server's down or running slow or whatever, you're basically screwed.
Um, yeah, I was just gonna say. So, in my opinion on that one, I don't see a whole heck of a lot of stuff that I can't do in Lightburn. And
Yeah.
I'm sending to the laser, I'm controlling everything in Lightburn. So why would I want to, unless I'm in an Affinity Design or one of these programs that I know backwards and forwards and it takes me 5 seconds to do stuff. Um, as soon as Lightburn came out with bendy text and curve or text to curve, I didn't need Illustrator anymore. 90% of the stuff that I needed to do, I could do right there in Lightburn. It's got one of the best tracing features, or it's the most accurate tracing feature that I've seen around. Better than Corel, better than Adobe. Yeah, I would say learn Lightburn and do as much as you can in there. I still pay for Adobe just because if somebody sends me a file and I need to dissect it, I can easily in there.
Oh.
Um, but if you're not
I mean,
used to it, or you're not, if you're learning from scratch, Lightburn should be able to do everything that you need to do quickly and easily.
yeah. If you're new to lasers and you've never touched anything before, Lightburn's got everything you'll need. Once you get more advanced and you want to do different things than Adobe, like I run Corel. It's funny because like I run Corel. Both of my employees that do are the video editing and our design stuff right now, they all use Adobe.
Right.
So, and then obviously the laser uses Lightburn. So like when they do something, they have to save it as a DXF or SVG or something like that I can open in Corel so I can look at it and mess with it. Then I got to save it in reverse. But like for me, all my stuff we do because we do the sublimation, embroidery, all that different stuff, and everything is compatible with Corel. That's the main reason why I use it.
Oh,
I
your
got
stupid
Adobe.
EPS bullshit.
Well, I got the Adobe because the two people that work for me that do that stuff, they know how to use Adobe and they're very well at it. And it wasn't a good business decision to make them learn Corel
Right.
just so I could be on the same page, or they could be on the same page as me, however you want to look at it. But everybody's got their niche. Adobe, I think, has a lot more than Corel, but Lightburn is kind of modeled after Corel in a lot of ways.
I mean, if you're doing two-dimensional design and vector art that needs to be cut or engraved, I don't think there's anything better out there than running Lightburn. Now, if you're doing for print and stuff like that, then yeah, Adobe is going to be the way to go. Affinity Designer, I mean, it's very close to Adobe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, creating DXF files, SVG files, Lightburn all day long.
Yeah, but to answer that question, I guess in a nutshell is if you've never touched anything, Lightburn is enough to do
To get you
what
in
you need to
trouble.
do. Yeah. And like what's this? There's one other thing. Uh yeah, there was another thing comment, I missed it. But yeah, so there's no sense in getting Corel or Adobe if you don't need it. If you want it and you want to play with it, then that's fine. But if you're just starting out, Lightburn's plenty sufficient to do anything that you'll need to do.
I see the one. I see the one that you missed. It was
Where's it
John
at?
saying, "Plus, you have with Thunder, you have CeeLo."
Oh no, that's not the one. I wouldn't
No,
highlight.
that's
I
the
would.
one that you were looking for.
No,
Obviously,
that's not the one I was looking for. Why would I want that? Um. So someone said I think Thunder's going to put a big dent in epilogue market with Odin Bolt. Yeah, I 100% agree. Especially with the Odin, the Bolt maybe not so much, just because of its size, but the Odin for sure, because it's comparable to probably 80% of Epilogue and Trotec machines. I mean, of course, they got bigger and smaller ones, but the majority of their stuff is that 24 to 36 inch kind of area there. And with the Bolt, or not the Bolt, but the Odin 32, I think it's 26 by 32 or something like
Mhm.
that. Um, so yeah, I mean yeah, they're gonna definitely put a dent in that eventually. But I don't think Thunder's really pushing the Odin too much. They might be doing it a little bit more now, but
Well, we have the new V2s in stock, which is going to be interesting to see how that one takes off. Um, yeah, I mean, why are you going to pay that amount of money, $20,000 to $50,000, for a machine that has too many proprietary parts? Very difficult to work on. You got to rely heavily on one of the best things about Thunder, in my opinion. This is
a
a
little biased, are you?
yeah. I mean, again, yeah. This is a everybody uh, podcast, but one of the nice things about Thunder is that all of it is top shelf parts. So if you need parts, you can get them from us. You can get them anywhere, and you can find everything that you need to find in there and work on it by yourself.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you go into an Epilogue that has all these proprietary things, and now you get to pay top shelf prices. uh, you know,
Well,
for what?
just for instance, or a comparison, let's say Thunder had no support or whatever, and you had to get a controller, you're going to spend about $350 for a controller. Now, mind you, the firmware is different. I'm just hardware. So a controller for Lightburn or for Thunder or any other of the Chinese machines that run the Ruida
Ruidas.
controllers, it's about $350 for a brand new controller and a brand new display. For Epilogue, for instance, I have a buddy that owns two of the Pros, and just for the controller, nothing else, $1,500 for the
Yeah.
controller,
Right.
and you have to get it through them. You cannot get, it's not open source like Ruida is. You can't just go get it anywhere. You have to get it from them.
Right.
So it blows my mind. Yes, I mean I've seen the Epilogues, I've seen the Trotecs. They're very nice machines, but it's and I know people that swear by them. Like they say, "I'll never own a Chinese machine." But the thing is, it's like you said, $20,000 to $50,000 for one of these machines. And let's say comparably, the Odin 32 is comparable to about their $30,000 to $40,000 machine size and capabilities.
Right.
So you spend, what's the Odin 32, 18 grand, somewhere around there, 17,
Yeah.
18,
Right.
and you're paying nearly a third of the price of an Epilogue or Trotec. And again, I'm not knocking them. They're great machines. They look nice. They seem like they run nice. But why would you do that? And I think the stigma of the Chinese machines is kind of starting to dissipate because of Thunder. Um, Eon's getting there. I mean, I think they got a decent machine as well, um, but because of these two companies in particular, and I guess Boss is starting to get into it as well. They got a couple new machines out, um, but because of that, I think the stigma of the old Chinese machines is kind of weaning a little bit. But you still got OM Tech, which is still, yeah, and then a couple other companies, um,
You're still
like
having to
the
fix it when you get it.
yeah, and if you're doing it for a hobby and you've got time and you don't like mind tinkering, sure, go spend $4,500 and get a 36 by 60 bed or whatever it is. You know,
Right.
get a big old machine for $4,500. But good luck on support, and hopefully you know how to work on it because you're gonna have to work on it.
Yep,
Um,
for sure.
you know, the best thing about Thunder for me um, is the fact that I own four, five, four, I don't know, something
You own
like
more
that.
than me.
Yeah, probably. Um, but every single one of them, I took them straight out of the crate, put them on the floor, hooked them up, and I've been running them ever since. My Nova 24 has moved. I've moved it 4 different times. Never prepped it. Never took the tube out. Never did anything. I stood it up on end, put it on a dolly, and put it in a truck or whatever.
That,
And
that
and I set
that's
it up.
something.
I set it up, and it works fine.
Yeah,
Like
that's something that people don't realize, that we have some that fall off of the back of these LTL carriers, and we're able to put new panels on them, not align them. We check it, but we don't have to. We don't have to align it. And new panel, refurbished machine, good
you
to
know,
go, just like brand new. Now do that with a glow forge that falls off of the back of a truck. Try it.
that's like the Bolt. I mean, as many of you may know, I put one in a mobile laser trailer, and I put going from Jacksonville, Florida, up to essentially Chicago, Illinois, Peoria. I put about 3,500 miles on that trailer, and when I got back, I didn't have to do a single thing. The only thing I had to do um, is, and I don't know if it's from the trip or whatever, but I my controller kind of fritzed out a little bit. I unplugged it from the back, plugged it back in, and it works fine. So it like had a loose connection or something. But no bolts fell out, nothing loosened up. The alignment was still spot on. I mean, everything was just perfect. And it's hard mounted inside of a trailer um, on the roads, and
Hmm.
you know, and they weren't all nice roads either. But that's just a testament to how they're built and the fact that they come from the factory to your door without having to be modified, without having to be checked or
with the
serviced or
with the tube
rewired or
installed.
with the tube installed. Like it comes from the factory to your door. You know, obviously there's middlemen that ship it and warehouse and stuff like that, but it once they crate it up, it never gets opened until it gets to your house or your shop. And I mean, you can't, in my opinion, you can't beat that. I
No,
mean, it's
that's a
just
testament to the QC on the China side for sure.
well, the fact that if you ever open one of those up, there is absolutely no doubt what you're looking at. Like everything is marked on both ends of the wire. So if you have like a A1, you go find A1, you know it's the same wire.
Hmm.
You know everything's clearly labeled. Everything's nice and neat.
No, and
Connectors.
owning a landscape company and having stuff that is field serviceable is highly important. You got to change a belt, you got to change a hydraulic motor, you got to do anything in the field. You want equipment that is serviceable in the field. Well, that's these machines. You know,
Yep.
if you're technical or not, we have the documentation. I mean, this turns into a Thunder commercial, and I didn't mean it to, but um, these are all legitimate things that I feel. Um, but yeah, I mean, anybody can service these and work on them because we have not only the support but the documentation, and they're easy to work on because everything's labeled.
Yep. And everything's accessible. Like there's no like
Right.
everything's right in front of you. Like there's
Right.
no everything's in the same spot on every machine. So,
Except for the
you know,
24.
well, I mean
Mm.
on the same laser,
Right. No, it's the
not
same,
necessarily,
same idea.
but you know everything's right there. It's clear, it's visible, it's easy to work on, it's easy to get to. The only exception to that would be like the motors, but the likelihood of those are going out is slim to none, to be honest. because they either work or they don't. They usually don't. They don't fail or start to fail. They usually just they either work or they don't, and that would probably be the hardest thing to do is change a motor. But
Do you
other
have
than
any
that,
other questions? I see Shannon Lee came in, said hi.
hey Shannon, let's
But
see.
otherwise, we're over time, and some people are going to be joining Laser Everything's. But if anybody has any questions before we wrap it up, if you got anything else, Jay?
Not really. I think we kind of covered everything that we didn't plan on talking about, which is everything.
I mean, it's
I
nice when we
mean,
have a topic, but even when we don't, one or two questions can lead us down some crazy holes.
that's a fact. But yeah, anybody got any last minute questions before we hop off here? I know there's another podcast going on here at Laser Everything at 9. So if you guys want to join in and check that out, go ahead. Otherwise, I mean, we can sit here and talk crap all night long. But yeah, if you're new and you don't happen to have watched the first episode or anything, thanks for joining us for this one. Hope to see you in more. We're gonna start getting some guests on here. I don't know if Chris will always be available to be on here, but we'll start getting guests and try to work that out so we're all on here together. But we're gonna start getting some guests. Actually, we have our first guest that will be joining us probably the second week in March, and that's Katie Devlin. Things Kate makes, and we'll probably kind of be centered around rotary stuff because she's been a pretty big influence on the rotary thing and wraps and things like that. So we'll have her on in a couple weeks and get to talk to her and pick her brain a little bit. But yeah, we'll start having some more. We'll start having guests on here. We wanted to kind of feel out things and see how everything went before we started, investing time and effort into getting people on here and talking and whatnot. So just remember for next time, if you have any questions, this podcast is primarily driven by your questions and your inputs and chat. So if you have anything, please bring it to the podcast and we'll answer it the best we can or point you in the right direction or something like that. So otherwise, we're just gonna sit here and talk crap and bash on each other how he don't know how to do cups and set them in a rotary properly and things like that. But it's all right. We arm wrestled about it and LBX, so we settled that. But but
It's still 50-50 in my opinion.
yeah, it was because we each won with our own strong hand. So I think it was a draw. But but no, yeah, we're just here to have fun, try to help people out, and just engage with our customers, our friends or acquaintances that we know and talk to, and ultimately help people out if we can. So hopefully some of this information has been helpful. We'll get more into to heavier topics as things go on, and we get more viewers and things like that, and people kind of see what we're doing, and that way you guys can kind of steer things a little bit more. What was that? Appreciate insight. Yep. Yeah. So thanks for watching, Chris. You got anything before we cut this out?
No, not looking forward to the next one, and that's it. Everybody have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks back here.
Yep. So we'll put out a thing once we iron out the date. Time will probably still be the same, about 8 o'clock. And once we get a date ironed out with Katie and get her on and get Chris on board and everybody together, then we'll put it out there and let you guys know. So, but yeah, thanks for watching again. It's only our second episode. Hopefully, we're on the right track. This is just a passion project for us both in a way.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah. So we're not experts at this, but we're gonna have fun the whole way. So hopefully you guys too have fun too, and you learn something as well. So again, thanks for watching, and you know, wherever you're following us at, go ahead and like, subscribe, whatever. That way, when we do have um, our next podcast, you'll be aware of it, and you can come join us and hang out and have some fun. So, all right. So, if you got nothing else, Chris, we'll go ahead
No, I'm
and
good.
we'll get out of here. Everybody have a good night, and go check out Laser Everything. They got their podcast going on right now. So, we'll see you in the next one. All right. Everybody take care. Have a good night.
See you.